Chapter 1, Humility 101. Standing with Sai and Yamato, Naruto and Sakura look up with despair at Sasuke as he stands on the edge of a tall embankment. Sasuke looks down at his former teammates with serenity as he comes to the end of his tirade. Still, the one thing I can say to you is that back then I chose to spare your life at nothing more than a whim of mine. Naruto glares at Sasuke, "You stuck up, pompous son of a bitch." Just as soon as he finishes his train of thought, Naruto finds himself looking at Sasuke's upper arm. He's quicker. And he still smells like a fish. When was the last time he took a shower? Yamato, he's fast. Sakura moves into a defensive stance and, looking utterly bewildered, wonders when he moved. Sasuke, now with his arm around Naruto's shoulders, continues, "Come to think of it, isn't becoming Hokage one of your dreams? If you have the time to chase me around, you would have been better off training, don't you think, Naruto?" After a brief pause, Sasuke unsheathes his katana, "And that's why this time you're going to end up losing your life, all at a whim of mine." Having exited Orochimaru's lair, Naruto had already surveyed the surroundings. Sasuke, with his latest maneuver, had given up the upper ground. Earlier, he had brushed off Sakura-chan's concern over his battle with Orochimaru, but Naruto was feeling the aftermath of his transformation into the four-tailed fox, and his coordination wasn't at its usual best. Naruto snickers to himself. But it was time to get focused. Like there's a chance someone, who can't save a friend, could become Hokage, don't you think, Sasuke? Humphrey Sasuke replies. Sasuke, having drawn his blade, begins his killing stroke. Being the closest to Naruto, Sai quickly counters by grabbing Sasuke's wrist. "Your choice of defense, quite correct," Sasuke remarks. In the blink of an eye, Naruto flips, holding onto Sasuke's free arm. Yamato and Sai take advantage of the opening. Sasuke simply closes his eyes and activates his Sharingan. Sasuke shouts, "Chidori Nagashi," as his entire body erupts with arcing lightning and emanates with a horrible chirping noise. Naruto and Sai are thrown into the air and land awkwardly. Sakura runs in, determined to help. But Yamato, recognizing the disaster in her choice of attack, takes her place, blocking her path. Sasuke plunges the katana into Team Kakashi's stand-in captain. Naruto laughs inwardly with the nine-tailed fox. "He continues to underestimate me. Typical. Will he never learn?" Naruto begins to collect himself and looks around to ensure his teammates are okay. As Naruto stands up, Sasuke uses his Sharingan to gaze into Naruto's soul. Outside of the Kyuubi's cage, Naruto stands face to face with his body's tenant. "Shall we kill him this time?" Sasuke suddenly appears standing next to Naruto. Naruto turns to his body's newest intruder, "Why are you here?" Sasuke ignores the question and glares at Naruto through the corners of his Sharingan eyes. "Now I am able to see, so this was your secret power then? Hard to believe that something like this existed inside you." With his eyes hardening with anger, Naruto shouts out with the top of his lungs, "This is my domain, you Sasuke Uchiha do not belong here." With Naruto's arms thrown backwards, a storm begins to emanate from Naruto's throat. His voice billows out with such a tremendous force that Sasuke is forced to shield his eyes. To maintain his balance, Sasuke widens his stance and draws more of his chakra in an attempt to remain in Naruto's mind. Piece by piece his body seems to atomize and disappear. How? An utterly bewildered Sasuke responds before his face disappears into thin air. Now back in reality, a sweating Sasuke stumbles to one knee and looks up to see Naruto approaching him full of emboldened confidence. "You arrogant prick," Naruto responds. Sasuke launches into a full attack with his Chidori-charged katana. It stabs Naruto and exits through his back. Naruto shakes his head in disappointment, and disperses into a cloud of smoke. "A shadow clone?" Sasuke questions. The sound of whistling comes from the tunnel where Team Kakashi first arrived. Naruto casually strides out with his hands in his pockets. This time Naruto stops short of Sasuke and places one foot on a boulder and leans on his knee. "I admit you have gotten a bit faster. But after all these years, I expected more of an improvement." After a brief pause, Naruto's gaze hardens, "Entering my head, quite an achievement. But don't do it again," Naruto warns with a sinister voice. An enraged Sasuke attacks again. With his enhanced speed he attempts to gauge Naruto's reaction. But he simply doesn't move. He merely glances at his nails to see if they are too long or something. Again Sasuke's katana strikes true, and again the Naruto before him laughs and disperses into a cloud of smoke.
Sasuke's confidence wanes. I should be able to see his clones with my Sharingan?
The sound of whistling again gets Sasuke's attention and he quickly turns to face where the sound is emanating from. Naruto suddenly hardens out of the embankment's rocky surface and casually strides up to Sasuke, his hands still in his pockets. I have spent the last 3 years training to save my friend. To do this, I have adapted myself to counter everything you have. Team Kakashi look at Naruto with sheer bewilderment. You think you're fast, Sasuke? Naruto asks questioningly. Before Sasuke has a chance to respond, his Sharingan beholds a golden light encircle him. He attempts to keep up but his Sharingan only sees the shimmer of where Naruto once was. He lashes out with his Chidori charged katana but merely disperses the haze. Sasuke receives a massive blow to the side. He turns to face his attacker, but receives another blow to the opposite side. Grasping for air, he forces his katana into the ground to regain his balance and with a free hand braces one of his shattered sides. Sasuke, can't you see me? Are your eyes working okay? You feel alright? Naruto's voice echoes around him and drips of sarcastic concern. Naruto slows and sits on a nearby boulder. Just imagine how strong you could have become had you stayed. Why, you may have even been able to keep up with me. Naruto. Sakura screams, reaching towards her friend, be careful. Naruto glances in her direction. He sees a bead of sweat roll down her cheek. Or are they tears? Perhaps I should take it easy on him for Sakura-chan's sake, just to be on the safe side. Naruto thinks. Inner Sakura is practically bursting with excitement at this sudden turn of events. Look at Naruto go, he owns Sasuke's arse. Go Naruto. Sasuke uses the distraction to attack, he takes a huge deep breath and launches his fireball jutsu. Naruto turns to see the oncoming ball of fire, it's a lot larger than it used to be, and more intense. But again he doesn't dodge it. Sasuke sees the fire engulf Naruto but before the flames enveloped him, he catches a glance of the smirking Naruto. He looks around. And behind him sits Naruto, not quite quick enough. Sasuke lifts his katana, ready to try another form of attack. Naruto's eyes gleam as time stands practically still. He moves to Sasuke's katana and takes his time to slowly move each of Sasuke's fingers from the grip of his weapon. Naruto moves back to where he was sitting, taking up the exact same position and faces Sasuke. Nice weapon you have here but you shouldn't rely on it too much. What happens if you lose it? Sasuke's eyes shoot open as he looks from Naruto's newly acquired weapon to his now empty hand. You're so pathetic. You think your bond of hatred has made you strong. It has made you stupid. Why don't you get it? Naruto shouts. Your body's going to be stolen by Orochimaru any time now. Sasuke stares at Naruto, if that happens, then it happens. Revenge means everything to me, don't you get it? As long as I have my revenge, I couldn't care less what happens to me, or the whole world for that matter. If I can accomplish this goal, through nothing more than offering Orochimaru this body of mine, then he can have my life, and my afterlife for that matter. Another blow, but this time to the side of the jaw. Sasuke feels it shatter. He wishes to scream with the pain but to do so would result in further injury. Stop talking so much CRP. Naruto screams. With his jaw out of place, Sasuke begins to strike out randomly. The golden blaze no longer circling him but rather moving in random patterns. To the left, no, to the right. Sasuke's Sharingan attempts to predict Naruto's movements with little luck. Focus, Sasuke thinks to himself. He has become too fast. I must get him into a place where I can strike at him with my new jutsu. I had hoped not to resort to my cruder methods but I see little option. Sasuke turns in the direction of Sakura, his gaze full of murderous intent. You dare Sasuke? Naruto shouts from what appears to be thin air. Sakura's eyes shift from one side to another seeking answers. Within the blink of an eye, a golden ray of light sweeps in front of her. Sakura's hair billows with the force of the movement. For a brief moment, she makes out the outline of Naruto's body running at Sasuke. I see him. Sasuke shouts inwardly and begins making the necessary hand signs. His entire body begins again to emanate with arcing electricity, and that chirping sound is more piercing and getting louder by the second. Naruto clenches his fist and drives it into the stomach of the avenging Uchiha. With Sasuke's approaching speed, Naruto's fist collides with Sasuke's spine, nearly ripping through his entire body. No time, Sasuke says to himself, and the lightning around his body begins to dissipate. Underestimated him, Should activate the cursed seal, too drained, attempting to remain inside Naruto's mind took too much chakra. Sasuke immediately begins to cough up blood, and collapses over a nearby boulder. Naruto looks at his charred black fist. Ouch! He starts blowing on it to cool it down and jumps from one foot to another. Sakura-chan, ouch, ouch. Sensing another's presence at the top of the embankment, Naruto and Sakura look up. Orochimaru and Kabuto stare down at the scene before them. Amazing! Kabuto says to himself. Orochimaru, this boy intrigues me to no end. Inwardly Orochimaru questions himself, Sasuke beaten by this mere brat. Perhaps I have chosen the wrong vessel. And what's more surprising is that he didn't use the fox's chakra. It is all him. Simply astonishing. What are you looking at? Naruto bursts out. Naruto looks down at his once-time rival and with his charred hand, picks him up by scruff of his shirt and tosses Sasuke's limp body up to the top of the embankment where Orochimaru and Kabuto are standing. Sasuke's stomach lands on the verge of the embankment, his legs dangling over the sides. More blood gushes from Sasuke's collapsed jaw. What strength? Yamato whispers. Heal him. Orochimaru says to Kabuto, whilst not taking his eyes from this powerful foe. Kabuto drags Sasuke's limp body to a more appropriate area and begins assessing the damage. He's in pretty bad shape, this may take some time. Not only is his jaw crushed, but he has broken ribs on the left and on the right. His lungs have collapsed and he is suffering severe internal bleeding. And that's not to mention the damage to his spine. We need to go if we are to save him. Feeling utterly drained himself, Orochimaru nods. Kabuto picks up Sasuke and stands next to Orochimaru. All three begin to disperse into a hazy cloud of smoke. Sakura turns to Naruto and shouts, "You idiot. Why did you throw him back?" Inner Sakura, kneeling out of apparent exhaustion, silently sobs, "That was so beautiful, what a fight. Let's make it happen again and make sure we have popcorn and maybe a remote control to slow down the action a bit. I had trouble keeping up. That will teach that bastard Sasuke for leaving us." "Yeah. Believe it." Sai and Yamato turn to Naruto, interested to hear his answer. Turning to Sakura, Naruto's eyes glaze over and he falls to the ground unconscious. "Naruto!" Sakura shouts, running over to his collapsed form. She kneels over him with her chakra-enveloped hands. "We need to get him back to Konoha." Sakura shouts to Yamato and Sai. "I have done what I can here." Her voice turns into a solemn whisper. Sakura scrutinizes Naruto's charred hand. Funny, the skin was all burnt and blistered as one would expect. But underneath the skin, there was absolutely no damage. Sakura shrugs, "Guess the nine-tailed fox got to it before I could." I'm here. Chapter 2, Recovery. Back in Konoha, beside Naruto's and Kakashi's hospital beds, Team Kakashi stare at Naruto trying to figure out just what had happened back at Orochimaru's lair. As though this would unravel the mystery that is Naruto. Tsunade walks in. "Naruto should be awake soon. I will discuss my findings with you later." Moving on to more important matters, "I am surprised he was able to battle Sasuke in this condition, let alone defeat him. Why do you think Naruto threw him back?" Yamato answers, "All businesslike, I believe he knew we were outmatched. And he also knew that he was on the verge of collapse. Naruto did the only thing he could to give us a chance of escape." Sakura sighs and looks to the floor. "I called him an idiot when he was thinking 10 steps ahead of me. I am the idiot, Naruto, I am sorry." A tear slowly drops to the floor. She walks towards her friend and clasps his hand in hers. Tsunade, Kakashi and Yamato look on at the sad display of affection. Sai just stands there and attempts to take this all in, jotting down some notes. "This is gold. I will have friends in no time." Tsunade, in a more serious tone, continues, "How did Naruto become so fast?" It was the question on everyone's lips. With some difficulty, Kakashi pulls himself into a more upright position. "I can answer that question." Jiraiya stands at the window looking concerned at the well-being of his student. Sakura looks around the room for an indication of his sudden appearance, even looking under Naruto's bed. "Where did he come from? These legendary Sannin are beginning to aggravate me." Inner Sakura shouts. "During our training, Naruto and I knew that we had to increase his speed to counter the Sharingan. He had to become so fast as to become virtually invisible to the moving eye. In actuality, so fast that it would appear that time itself had stopped. One day, during an intense training session, Naruto tore his hamstring. Kneeling next to him, I watched as the Kyuubi's chakra healed him. Naruto then simply hopped up, ready to do it all over again. Jiraiya snickers at the fond memory. I theorized that if we were stopped this chakra from healing a muscle injury, more chakra would be sent in order to overcome the apparent obstruction. When the Kyuubi's chakra became so large that the obstruction could no longer stem the flow, the obstructing chakra could be merged with the healing chakra of the Kyuubi. I believed that by doing this, the makeup of the injured muscle would be altered dramatically. It would be infused with so much power, that it would become something else, something more. Tsunade and Sakura, being familiar with the human anatomy, stood transfixed. At first Naruto had a hard time understanding what I was proposing, but he eventually grasped the concept. When he asked if we could try it on one muscle first, I told him that we had to do it to all to see the potential benefit. If we left one muscle unaltered, this one muscle would prevent the others from utilizing the apparent change. Basically following the weakest link theory, Jiraiya paused to gauge the group's understanding and once satisfied continued. I told Naruto that I would have to enter his mind. And together we would walk the corridors of his body to each muscle. He would have to prepare for the onslaught of the nine-tailed fox's chakra by readying the release of his own chakra. I was going to then tear Naruto's muscle practically in two. The pain of which would be immense. Once done, there should be a surge of red chakra. Naruto would then have to unleash his own chakra in the form of a shield over the damaged area, providing an obstruction. Upon encountering the obstruction, more healing chakra should be sent, in theory anyway. If this all happened, I told Naruto to increase the power of his shield so as to get the most chakra from the Kyuubi as possible. Once near his limit, he was to remove the obstructing shield and merge it with that of the red chakra, and that he would need to give his chakra purpose. Think of what you want your muscles to become. Jiraiya looked up from Naruto's body to Tsunade, seeking forgiveness. Naruto of course decided to give it a go. What harm could it do after all? Jiraiya waited for an answer but none were forthcoming. We started on the smaller muscles first. The chakra was easy for Naruto to stop in the beginning and he managed to withhold its healing intent. He continued to increase his shield and on the verge of exhaustion, Naruto slammed his chakra into the red chakra. At first the red chakra seemed to fight, but it eventually capitulated and turned into a surprising golden color. The newly formed chakra then not only healed the torn muscle but transformed its entire structure as I had hoped, extending to even the ligaments themselves. On a molecular level, however, I wasn't sure what was happening. We repeated this process over and over again, and as a side effect, Naruto began getting accustomed to his immense chakra levels. His larger muscles were much more difficult and there were times when Naruto had nearly died from the exertion and the continued pain. But eventually the job was done. He had changed every muscle in his body. At first, his speed and strength seemed the same. I attacked Naruto with a myriad of elemental jutsus and found that his muscles were much more resilient. Either that or they just regenerated so fast that I couldn't see. But even though there was a slight improvement, I was rather disappointed with the result. Jiraiya pauses. But then something extraordinary happened. We were attacked by some rogue ninjas. And in the heat of battle, Naruto turns to me, his grin could have split his face in two, and within a mere heartbeat, the area looked like it had been hit with a tornado. Debris and bodies were flying everywhere. Jiraiya waves his hands around in the air trying to add some more flair to his story. Taking in everyone's astonishment, Jiraiya continued, at that very moment, I analyzed his muscles and from what I could gather, they had become exceptionally stronger. Without any form of chakra manipulation he was 100 times stronger than both Tsunade and Sakura combined. Wait a minute, Tsunade interrupts, are you telling me that he can do all this without even accessing his chakra? Jiraiya answers worriedly, I am not entirely sure. What I am certain of is that Naruto must have had some reservations about changing himself. So I think he inadvertently molded into his intent some kind of activation. I am not sure what it is, perhaps it's a subconscious decision. Perhaps it's his body's way of self-preservation. It's like he has two modes of operation. A standby mode, where his muscles are now extremely resilient to damage. And a battle-type mode, where his subconscious decides things are dire and the extra speed and strength are required. Kakashi, Tsunade, Yamato, Sakura and Sai were having a hard time taking in what Jiraiya had just said. But it had to be true. Most had seen it with their own eyes. Kakashi turned to Yamato to determine whether he too should believe it. It's true. Sakura says quietly, breaking the silence. It all fits. Naruto ran rings around Sasuke. One time, Sasuke was holding his katana, and within the blink of an eye, Naruto had it. It looked as though Naruto hadn't even moved. And each blow he delivered ripped through Sasuke's organs and shattered bones. Also, at the end of the fight, with a mere flick of his wrist, he tossed Sasuke up a 20 meters high embankment, 30 meters away. This also explains why his burnt hand functioned fine. She thinks to herself. Sakura gently straightens Naruto's hospital sheets. Is this all I can do for him? Cursing herself for not checking earlier, Tsunade walks up to Naruto and delves her chakra into one of Naruto's muscles. She begins to notice the subtle molecular changes. How on earth is this possible? Tsunade musters all her chakra in her right fist, turns around and punches Jiraiya in the face, forcing him to fly out of the window. Jiraiya screams in pain, ow 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 ow. You idiot, Tsunade screams out the window to the now distant Jiraiya. She cups her hands around her mouth in an attempt to have her insult carry. How dare you do this to Naruto? She glares at the other members. Kakashi feigns sleep whilst the others step back in sheer terror. Tsunade turns her head to the boy under the covers. If he were awake, I would clobber him too. She grabs Naruto's collar and begins shaking him. It was about time he woke up anyway. I healed him hours ago. Some drool escapes Naruto's mouth as he slowly comes to. The first thing he sees is a glaring old hag. Bwah! Naruto screams and covers his eyes. Tsunade stops glaring at the boy and lets him go. It took all her willpower not to beat him senseless. So you changed your muscles. Whoop-de-doo. Tsunade says in an angry, childlike voice. How come you didn't show us this newfound ability when fighting Kakashi? It was a stupid question considering Jiraiya's explanation, but she had to let the boy know that she knew. Ignoring the question, Naruto sits up. I feel much better. He peers past Tsunade. Sakura-chan, you really should learn how the old bag did this. If you could have done this earlier, I may have been able to bring Sasuke back. Inner Sakura's left eye twitches. What did he just say? Sakura loses her cool, pushes past Tsunade and punches Naruto in the face. The downward motion of her stroke causes the bed to collapse. Ow 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 ow, my face. Naruto clutches his face with both hands. Lying on the floor, Naruto looks back to Tsunade and answers her question. There was no need. He states simply. He didn't want to be attacked by another angry woman. So how about some ramen? Naruto stands up in his hospital gown and turns to look for his clothes. Where are my clothes? Team Kakashi and Tsunade find themselves staring at Naruto's naked behind. Where's that breeze coming from? Naruto asks, reaching back to scratch his butt. His eyes widen at the sudden realization. Inner Sakura snickers. Ah, right, she pumps the air with her fist. Look at those buns of steel, baby. Sakura, all prim and proper. Naruto. Naruto runs out the door, his gown billowing with the speed of his escape. I can't let Sakura-chan hit me again. Sakura follows in hot pursuit. Sai's eyes widen as he jots down some more notes. Note, upon seeing the naked body, for example bum, of a person of the opposite sex, scream and attack them. Chapter 3, Chance Encounters. Upon bolting from his hospital room, Naruto makes a dash down the corridor and takes the first turn left. He looks back to see if Sakura is still chasing him. Come back here, you pervert, Sakura shouts. I'm the pervert? Naruto asks. At the next intersection, Naruto takes another left, and then another. Peeking around the corner, he waits in ambush. Sakura comes to the second intersection and looks both left and right for signs of the retreating Naruto. Not seeing him, she decides to go right. Phew, Naruto exclaims, wiping his brow. Upon nearly colliding with Naruto as he rounded the corner, Hinata blushes. Naru, Hinata whispers. Before completing his name, Hinata's eyes begin to drift down the back of Naruto's hospital gown. Her blush turns a deeper shade of red at the sight of his muscular back. Her eyes continue their descent. Before she knew it, she was looking at Naruto-kun's behind. Naruto turns around at the sound of a large thud. Hinata-chan. Naruto lowers himself and gives her a gentle shake. Hinata-chan? Wow, I really don't want to wake her. She looks so happy, and so peaceful. Naruto lifts her up. I can't leave her here. I better take her home. But first I better get back to my apartment to get some clothes. I will grab my stuff in the hospital room later. Back in Kakai's hospital room, Dansu appears at the entrance. May I speak with Sai? Tsunade growls inwardly but politely responds, of course. Sai and Dansu leave side by side. It's not like you to fail your mission. Sai responds without emotion, yes, I have one request to ask of you. Request you say? I would wish that I be allowed to remain with Team Kakashi for the time being with my name as it is. Sai uses his newfound smile. What is this new smile of his, I wonder? Dansu wonders. Yes, I have been informed by Tsunade. However, let me remind you, Sai, emotion leads one to hate, and hate leads one to conflict and war. During his childhood, Naruto had spent many times at the hospital and on many occasions had the need to avoid people on the return trip home. He knew the streets of Konoha like the back of his hand. In no time at all he had returned to his apartment, with Hinata over his shoulder. To balance her, he had to place one hand over her tush. This brought a slight blush to Naruto's complexion and a cheeky grin to his face. It feels really nice. Naruto places her gently on the bed, and looks at her from head to toe to ensure everything is as it should be. Naruto can't help but notice her womanly figure. It had curves in all the right places. Naruto begins to notice the bulge in his hospital gown. I better take one hell of a cold shower before Hinata-chan comes too. Undoing the flimsy piece of strings holding his hospital gown together, he steps into the bathroom and turns on the cold water in the shower. With the water now at the preferred pressure, he steps in. The cold water has an immediate impact. Or much better, Naruto says as the water douses his hair and runs down his face. The sound of Naruto's voice awakens Hinata. Did I faint again? I thought I would be too old for that by now. She sits up. Where am I? Hearing the sound of the shower running, she silently stands. At first she notices the disarray of the apartment, but then she notices the cupboard full of orange pants and black mesh tops. Hinata's eyes widen. Oh no. Naruto-kun's apartment. Then that must mean, she turns her head in the direction of the bathroom and turns crimson. Having a gift for being unnoticed, Hinata walks towards the bathroom and places her ear against the door. Hinata-chan's looking hot, and her butt, it felt awesome. But geez, if Hinata-chan had woken up and saw me with this, she would absolutely freak out. She would probably beat me up worse than Sakura-chan. This cold shower was an absolute stroke of genius. Believe it. Naruto says whilst lathering up. Hinata grabs her chest and smiles dreamily. Oh my god. Calm down. Her heart beats so loudly that she is afraid that Naruto-kun will hear it. Please don't pass out. Hinata musters the courage to nudge the door ajar and peeks inside. Luckily for her, the shower was in easy view. She gazes over the full naked body of Naruto Uzumaki, the love of her life and the core of her inspiration. She takes all of him in, his blonde, wet hair, his boyish face, wide shoulders, his muscular torso, his taut buttocks, and, oh, wow. That's pretty massive. I caused that? Hinata's eyes glaze over as she begins to swoon. Not now. She makes her way to the bed. Hold on. All done, Naruto exclaims, turning off the shower and placing a towel around his waist. Hinata hears the shower stop. Eek, he's coming. She topples onto the bed. Her face buried in Naruto's pillow with one leg managing to make it back. The other was not as lucky as it dangles alongside. Naruto opens the bathroom door to check on his rare guest. I don't remember placing her on my bed like that. Naruto thinks as he walks up to her. Naruto notices her tush again, but this time Hinata has her legs spread, causing the fabric of her pants to become more taut. Without thinking, Naruto gently places his hand on it and rubs gently. He then proceeds to move inwards. Eek, what am I thinking? I must be spending too much time with pervy sage, Naruto says, mortified. Hinata feigns sleep to give her some time to work out her best course of action. Her position had a lot to be desired, but it couldn't be helped now. Naruto approaches her. Hinata becomes a little frantic, and closes her eyes more fiercely. Please don't see me, please don't see me. Suddenly she can feel Naruto-kun's hand caress her butt. That's nice, she bits her lower lip. His hand begins to move towards the area between her legs. Just the thought of it makes her quiver. Inner Hinata screams with crazed delight, do it, do it. Hinata, without thought, widens her legs and raises her arse, to quicken Naruto's quest, but she sits up in fright at Naruto's sudden loud outburst. Quick, think of something? She rubs her eyes, yawns and stretches her arms. Where am I? Oh, Naruto-kun, what are you doing in the hospital? She peers around the toweled Naruto, trying desperately to avoid eye contact with his naked upper body. Standing up, she looks at Naruto with the glare she learned from the female elders of the Hyuga clan. How did I get here, Naruto-kun? Naruto stutters, well. Best to just tell the truth, Naruto thinks. I was hiding from Sakura-chan in the corridors of the hospital. When I turned around, I found you on the floor. Since I didn't know where you were going, I decided to take you home. But I really wasn't in the appropriate attire to visit the Hyuga household, so I came home to change. Naruto folds his arms and nods. Excellent. No rambling and to the point. Every action reasonable and justifiable. And no mentioning of any touching or perverted thoughts. Hinata lets out a shy giggle, as she taps her fingers together. Well, that sounds okay. Phew. Thanks Hinata-chan. But come to think of it, why were you at the hospital? Naruto asks curiously. I heard you were injured, so I came to pay you a visit to see if you were alright, Hinata answers timidly. Naruto blushes, his eyes downcast. Not many people tend to visit me. Hey, Hinata-chan? Naruto pauses. Should I? What about Sakura-chan? Hinata waits, her eyes pleading with Naruto-kun to ask her out. Yes, Naruto-kun? Would you like to train together tomorrow? Naruto gets out quickly. It's not really a date, but I do get to spend some more time with Hinata-chan. Yes. Hinata blurts out a little too quickly. He may not have asked me out on a date this time, but it doesn't matter. Naruto-kun has noticed me, and tomorrow he will notice me some more. Hinata stammers, what time tomorrow? Oh, Naruto rolls his eyes upwards trying to think of a good time. How about 9 a.m., and I'll meet you at your house? Hinata is too lost for words and simply nods. If I open my mouth, I might scream. Best to keep it shut. With a smile on her face, Hinata checks the time. I must go now Naruto-kun. It's getting late. Oh, okay Hinata-chan. And I had better put some clothes on. Naruto laughs trying to cover up his embarrassment and scratches his ruffled hair. Sorry Naruto-kun, I didn't notice. Hinata stammers as she turns and exits the apartment. She hadn't told a larger lie in her entire life. As Naruto closes the door behind her, Hinata's knees begin to give way. She leans against the door for reinforcement and slides slowly to the floor. This is the greatest day of my life. Clasping her chest, she waits for her heart to slow down, before heading home. Chapter 4, Unlikely Adversaries. Naruto sighs to himself, Shikamaru was right, women are troublesome. Walking to the closet, he grabs his usual garb and begins to dress. Need to get some ramen. Naruto says to himself, as he reaches for his frog purse and like a child begins to count each and every coin, just enough. Meanwhile, Sakura finds herself walking to Naruto's apartment, his abandoned clothes in hand. Why am I bringing his stinking clothes back for him? Lazy Naruto. He was the one that ran away. Perhaps I should wash them? Inner Sakura says in a casual, mother-like voice as she taps her chin in thought. In the distance she sees Hinata emerge from Naruto's apartment building. I wonder where she has been? Sakura quickens her pace to accidentally bump into Hinata. She is just about to yell out to get Hinata's attention, when suddenly Hinata stops. Hinata looks back to ensure Naruto's building is far enough away. Yippee! She shouts at the top of her voice, jumping into the air with glee. Sakura stops and stares. I wonder what that was all about? Hinata, using her ninja skills, jumps away out of sight and heads for home. Sakura, looking on bewildered, shrugs and heads for Naruto's apartment. Before closing his apartment door, Naruto hears someone shout. He walks to his window to quickly investigate. Although not finding the source of the sound, he does see someone in pink approaching. Naruto leans out the window to get a closer look. With a stupid look on his face, Naruto shouts, "Is that you Sakura-chan?" Naruto glares hoping to improve his vision. Perhaps I shouldn't have shouted. She may still wish to hit me. Scaring himself into action, Naruto begins to look frantically for a place to hide. Being a relatively small apartment, there was little hope. Knock. Knock. Sakura exclaims as she bangs on the door. Panicking, Naruto responds, no one is home. In a last-ditch effort, Naruto launches himself and crouches on the small window sill. Sakura laughs to herself and with her free hand opens Naruto's door. I brought your clothes back, and don't worry. I am not going to hit you. Sakura looks up. Get down from the window ledge, you idiot. Sakura says softly, not meaning it. I'll just put these down on your bed, but you'll need to wash them. Naruto cautiously gets down and walks towards her. Thanks Sakura-chan. I was going to pick these up later. Sakura sits on the edge of the bed. Sakura-chan is on my bed. Naruto giggles shrewdly. Hey Naruto? Yes Sakura-chan? Jiraiya told us about what the two of you did, to transform your body's muscular structure. Sakura looks down as she attempts to continue. Naruto takes a seat next to her. Sakura-chan has really nice legs. Thoughts of what Hinata's legs may look like spring into his mind. Unable to continue this absurd politeness, she grabs Naruto's arm. Let me have a look. Naruto's daydream is interrupted. Hey, take it easy. Sakura draws upon her chakra and concentrates it around her hands. They begin to emanate in a soft blue color. Closing her eyes, she gently rubs Naruto's arms up and down. She feels the hairs on Naruto's arm move with her soft touch. Naruto begins to fall into a very relaxed state, becoming very drowsy. Sakura breaches the skin's outer surface, nothing remarkable there. She delves deeper, eventually reaching the arm's muscles. She lowers her gentle embrace down to Naruto's wrist. Might as well start from the bottom and work my way up. Best to be thorough. She first notices the ligament pulsating in a blue light, much like Naruto's chakra. Taking a closer look, she senses the more tightly bonded molecules, and the dormant chakra embedded within them. Amazing, she attempts to damage it, but the force applied has no impact. She tries a bit harder. Nothing. Turning her chakra into a blade, she attempts to tear the ligament slightly. Still nothing. She frowns. Drawing upon much more chakra, she intensifies the blade and strikes with all her inner strength. A minuscule scratch appears. Holy crap! Inner Sakura shouts. Before Sakura even has a chance to repair the damage she inflicted, the ligament regenerates. Double crap! Inner Sakura shouts unbelievably. With her eyes still closed, her brow now sweating with her intense concentration, she moves to the muscle. The blue chakra pulsates in rhythm with that of the ligament. Sakura attempts everything she knows to inflict severe damage to Naruto's muscle. Although only successful on a few occasions, the damaged area is immediately either repaired or regenerated. She gracefully moves up Naruto's toned arm, feeling the bulge of his muscles. Feels nice. Inner Sakura sighs dreamily. Focus Sakura. She demands. Naruto, please activate. Next stage. Sakura waits for Naruto's compliance. Naruto. Sakura opens her eyes to find Naruto fast asleep. She takes a moment to reflect on what she has found, and takes a deep breath. Naruto. Sakura says a little louder. She grasps his arm tighter and gives it a shake. His head bounces from side to side as his eyes begin to open. Sakura-chan, I am sorry. That was so relaxing. Sakura lessens her grip now that he is awake, and begins a gentle rubbing motion. That's okay Naruto, she replies, I just wanted you to activate the change you made to your muscular structure. Oh, can't Naruto says matter-of-factly. Why not? Sakura frowns. I don't seem to have any control. Sensing Sakura's disappointment he continues, but I can sense it when it's there. It's like my entire body hums. Naruto pauses for a second trying to think of a better explanation. It's like my body likes the fact that my muscles are harder to break. So it allows that all the time. However, it doesn't like the increased strength and speed, so it only allows limited use. Naruto wasn't happy with his explanation. Sakura closes her eyes and caressing Naruto's arm, delves her chakra in once more to take another look. The muscle and the attached ligaments seem to pulsate in rhythm. But other muscle/ligament structures, although close, seem to be slightly out of sync. I wonder, knowing that Anshi herself and perhaps Tsunade-sensei are the only ones alive that may have the necessary ability to even pick up on the subtle shifts in chakra subharmonics, Sakura begins to ponder a theory of her own. Exhausted from her analysis, she opens her eyes and places Naruto's arm back down. Naruto had nearly dozed off again. I think you best get some ramen Naruto. Sakura says. At hearing Sakura mention his favorite dish, Naruto immediately comes to. I would love to have some ramen with you Sakura-chan. Naruto smiles broadly. No, I need to get home. Sakura responds. Sakura gets up and lets herself out. I'll see you tomorrow morning for some training. Oh, I didn't know we had training? Naruto asks trying to remember making the engagement. We don't, I just thought we should improve our teamwork. Sakura says a little bewildered. Usually Naruto jumps at the chance at training with her. No reservations, no questions asked. I'm sorry Sakura-chan, I won't be able to make it. I ran into Hinata-chan and, well, I will be training with her tomorrow morning. Sakura attempts to hide her dismay. Inner Sakura's eye begins to twitch, so that's why that ugly dog was so happy. She starts punching the air with her fists. Naruto's mind, you daggy wench. Oh, okay. Another time then, hey? Sakura attempts to cheer up the sad-looking Naruto. It has an immediate impact as his cheeky grin returns. Sure thing, Sakura-chan. And I will try and get the structure thing happening so you can have a look. Believe it. Naruto says heartedly. Sakura smiles and closes the door behind her. She sighs inwardly as she wipes away the tears forming in her eyes. What is this, Sakura? He is not your boyfriend. You berate him all the time. How is he supposed to know you like him? And he thinks you're in love with Sasuke. Chapter 5, The Byakugan Falters. Having gotten directions from the owner of the ramen shop, Naruto finally arrives at the doorstep to the Hyuga household. Naruto reminisces about this morning's breakfast, for he had missed his noodles immensely during the time away with the pervy sage. Naruto glances over his attire. No spilt ramen? Check. Fly up? Check. We're good to go. He knocks on the door. Coming. He hears from a familiar voice. Ahem, Naruto coughs to clear his throat. Opening the door, Neji smiles and invites him inside. Follow me, Naruto, I will take you to our training area. Hinata is waiting with her father. Walking the corridors, Naruto begins to notice the splendor of Hinata's home. Wow! So much room. There must be hundreds of people living in here? Neji laughs. No, only the main branch. Neji pauses and changes the subject. I am looking forward to seeing how much stronger you have become, Naruto. Naruto smiles in eager anticipation. I didn't know that you two would be joining us. Neji finally turns to look at Naruto. I invited myself. We're here. Neji exclaims. Naruto and Neji walk into a beautifully gardened area. In the middle, sits a sunken training ground about the size of a basketball court, surfaced with a fine layer of soft gravel. Beneath his feet, Naruto notices the fine wooden decking which extends like a pathway around the leafy vicinity, with servants scuttling around carrying towels, bed sheets, serving trays and the like. They attempt to ignore Naruto, but he has seen such attempts before. He immediately feels unwelcome, a customary feeling. Naruto sighs inwardly but doesn't let his spirits dampen. Finally, Naruto notices Hinata sitting with her father. Her eyes downcast, her feet pointing inwards, and her face grim. Naruto can feel her sadness. She is dressed in a slightly different attire to what he was used to seeing her wear long ago. What used to be simply a cream-thick jacket was now black, with cream shoulders that extended down the arms, and also a cream-colored hood. She had it unzipped to just above her breasts. Underneath, she was wearing a black mesh-styled top much like his own, and her leaf ninja headband was wrapped around her neck. She was still wearing three-quarter pants with the usual assortment of weapons. Hinata's hair was also a lot longer. Naruto didn't know which style he preferred. Through the corner of her eyes, Hinata notices a bright orange-clad individual. Ignoring her father, she jumps up and waves like she is hailing a plane. Naruto. Over here. Father is right, I am clearing visible and I am waving at Naruto-kun like a moron. Hinata's joyous smile falters. Lord Hyashi, not liking being ignored, glares at his failure of a daughter and stands to welcome the Kyuubi vessel. He was reluctant at first in allowing him inside, but he has shown considerable fortitude. But not only that, Naruto Uzumaki had given him the courage to approach his nephew a long time ago about how his brother, Neji's father, had sacrificed himself to save him. Welcome, Naruto Uzumaki, to my humble residence. Lord Hyashi says in a rather formal tone, dipping his head slightly in what appears to be a small bow. Hey, Hinata's dad. Thanks for having me. Naruto responds. Neji slaps his forehead with the palm of his hand. My apologies, Lord Hyashi, I presumed Naruto already knew your name. Naruto turns to Neji and shakes his head. Nope. Lord Hyashi forces down a hearty laugh. You and Hinata may begin your training. Neji and I are going to be watching in order to offer Hinata some advice, so please do not mind our apparent intrusion. Naruto peers past the tall man to Hinata to see if this is okay by her. He notices her staring at her feet. Her toes pointed inwards shyly, and her fingers gently tapping each other. Oh, okay, if that's all right with Hinata-chan? Naruto asks politely. Hinata briefly looks up and nods to Naruto-kun. I must remember my ninja way. This is my chance to show Naruto what I can do. Both Naruto and Hinata make their way down the steps to the center of the sparring ground. The guests and servants of the Hyuga's household scuttling around the wooden path all stop to watch, their curiosity creating an eerie silence. Naruto blurts out, "This is way too quiet. It's almost spooky." He puts his hands above his heads and smiles. "So, you ready, Hinata-chan?" He turns to face her. Hinata had already taken up the gentle fist-style stance. Hinata shouts, "Byakugan." The veins around her eyes suddenly thicken with the increased chakra flow. "I am ready, Naruto-kun." She takes a mental note of her surroundings and finally focuses on Naruto. "Oh, no. Father. Quickly. There is something wrong." Hinata shouts. Naruto had never heard Hinata speak so loudly. The voice sounded oddly familiar to the shout he heard just the other day. Lord Hyashi and Neji race towards Hinata. "What's wrong?" Hinata's father asks as they block Hinata from view. The growing crowd begins to whisper to one another. Their gazes turn towards Naruto with a look of sheer hatred. Naruto growls under his skin at the lack of concern over one of their own. He attempts to stand on his toes to get a better look, but Hyashi is too tall. "My Byakugan, it isn't working." Hinata gets out desperately. "Is this because I have feelings for Naruto-kun?" "Can't be, don't be so stupid. Explain yourself." Lord Hyashi demands. Hinata begins to feel tears run down her face, though her voice remains steady. "Well, everything was fine, but when looking at Naruto-kun I cannot see his chakra flow. He is simply all blue." With sudden realization, Naruto walks up to the family gathering. Excuse me, I think I can explain." Naruto is ignored by Lord Hyashi. "Impossible. Neji, you attack Naruto." Lord Hyashi points to Naruto like he is some kind of animal. Hyashi grabs Hinata by the arm and drags her out of harm's way. Suddenly Neji rounds on him and activates his Byakugan. Neji misses a step as he focuses on Naruto. "That can't be right. I must be seeing things." Naruto laughs inwardly as he notices the brief look of apprehension on Neji's face. Within such close proximity of the person who defeated him in the Chunin exams, Neji begins to attack using his much improved gentle fist technique. He focuses on Naruto's arms and torso, attempting to hit his chakra points. His hands practically blazing with his immensely focused chakra. Perhaps these darker areas of blue are his chakra points? What the? They moved. I must strike quicker. Naruto clumsily dodges each and every one of Neji's strikes. Geez, those look way more dangerous than before. Best to play it safe and not let them hit me. Naruto overhears Lord Hyashi speak to Hinata. "See? Neji can do it." Turning his head to look in the direction of Hinata, he then notices that Hinata-chan is crying. By the look of her damp sleeve, she had been in tears for a while. Naruto has trouble keeping the nine-tailed fox at bay and a terrible growling noise rumbles from around his stomach. Momentarily, Naruto's eyes turn red, his pupils becoming black slits. Neji notices that Naruto's attention is elsewhere. "It seems as though I will need to lift my game." Hearing Neji's proclamation, Naruto turns his attention back to his attacker. Neji takes a frightened step back, seeing the murderous intent in Naruto's now changed eyes. Neji attempts to swallow his fear. Naruto calms himself. His eyes turn back to their normal shade of, breathes a sigh of relief and begins to strike much quicker, his hands and feet moving so fast that they appear almost like blue streaks of light. Naruto stops dodging, folds his arms and in a voice loud enough for all to hear, shouts, "Take your best shot." Neji loses his patience. "You take me so lightly, Naruto." "I will apologize later, Neji-san. And then we will fight properly." Naruto responds despondently at having insulted a friend's pride. Neji runs straight for Naruto and screams, 128 strikes. His hands now blazing like blue fireballs. Eek! This better not hurt. Naruto braces himself as each and every strike lands exactly where Neji intended, his supposed chakra points. Neji stops and waits for Naruto to collapse. Naruto, hiding his attempts to catch his breath, nods approvingly. "Well, you have improved, Neji." He unfolds his arms and walks up to Hinata and her father. Lord Hyashi, Neji and the remaining onlookers stand there astonished. Hinata wipes away her last tear and looks up at her approaching friend. "There is no need to worry, Hinata-chan. Neji's Byakugan sees the same thing yours does." Naruto offers her his hand to help her up. Byakugan. Naruto turns around to see Lord Hyashi staring straight at him with his bloodline limit. Naruto then hears the echoing sounds of other Hyuga clan members activating their byakugan. He turns his head left and right to see that everyone's focus is squarely on him. How is this possible? Your whole body is raging with chakra, I can't make out the flow, nor the chakra points, it's everywhere. Lord Hyashi exclaims, circling the still Naruto. The other members of the Hyuga clan gasp in shock, and cover their mouths with the quick intake of air. They begin whispering to each other. Naruto glares. He can only imagine what they must be saying. Hinata-chan, would you like to train somewhere else? Nodding, Hinata takes Naruto's offered hand and he helps her to her feet. Naruto turns to the still speechless Neji, I am sorry Neji-san. We shall fight another time. Neji nods, accepting the apology and the unsaid promise of a more serious test of ability. Naruto could tell that Neji was indeed looking forward to it now more than ever. Holding Hinata's hand, he turns his back on the Hyuga clan and makes his way back down the corridors from whence he came. Hinata smiles giddily at having Naruto hold her hand for such a long period of time. I hope he doesn't let go. Once outside the compound, Hinata gathers the courage to speak, I am sorry about that Naruto-kun. Naruto immediately cheers up and smiles mischievously, don't worry about it, I get that all the time. Although meant to cheer her up, Hinata is obviously distraught by his comments. Poor Naruto-kun. Going through life with everyone hating him, with everyone thinking you're a failure. You sure showed my clan, however. Inside, she beams with pride. Once we get to the lake, I shall attempt to explain. And then perhaps we can show your family that you are indeed an excellent ninja. Believe it. Naruto regretfully lets Hinata's hand go. She sighs inwardly. Upon reaching the lake, Naruto sits cross-legged in front of Hinata. Now, to keep this brief as I don't want to bore you, whilst training with the pervy sage, we attempted a rather unique experiment. The end result of which was embedding all of my muscles with chakra so as to counter the Uchiha clan's Sharingan. From your explanation to your father, it seems that this experiment has resulted in hiding my chakra points since the body is practically covered in muscle tissue. Great for me, not so great for the Hyuga clan. Naruto laughs loudly. Hinata frowns, taking this in. I wonder how he did that? I hope it wasn't painful. The mere thought of Naruto being in more pain makes Hinata's heart wrench. Another thought dawns upon her, so training with you may be pointless? On the verge of tears, Naruto corrects her, no, I don't think so. I actually believe this could be a good thing. I may have an idea which will make your byakugan even stronger. She looks into Naruto's heavenly blue eyes, and nods for him to continue. Well, I believe if you spent more time with me, with your byakugan activated, your eyes will eventually begin to adapt and may become stronger in order to satisfy the original intent of your bloodline limit, and you will find my chakra points. Hinata's sadness disappears. More time with Naruto-kun? She had all but ignored everything else Naruto had said, but as he was expecting some kind of response, Hinata, scratching her head, says sounds reasonable. Alright. Then let's get to it. Naruto stands. Hinata follows suit and begins to unfasten her jacket. Naruto gulps and stares. Everything seems to go in slow motion, as he watches Hinata's soft hands reach for the zipper between her breasts. Naruto can clearly hear the sound of the zipper going further and further down, exposing more and more of the black mesh top. Finally unfastening her jacket, she shrugs her shoulders in an attempt to shake it off and have it fall to the ground. Her breasts bounce delicately. Naruto's hands begin to quiver. He sees clearly through the top. Her flimsy bra not capable of hiding her hardening nipples. Naruto feels as though he is going to pass out. He clamps his eyes shut in an attempt to regain his focus. Laying her jacket to one side, Hinata turns her attention to Naruto and blushes shyly. Naruto opens one eye to make sure he is ready. Byakugan! Hinata shouts. Giggling at Naruto's one-eyed glare, she focuses on trying to see through his chakra-embedded muscles. Naruto finally manages to open both eyes and begins to draw his attention away from her chest. Should I take my top off? Naruto asks, thinking that it may help. Inner Hinata responds despondently, no, that won't help at all. Hinata answers timidly, yes, it may help Naruto-kun. Inner Hinata looks up in realization and shouts, way to go me. Thinking nothing of it, Naruto sheds his orange jacket and his mesh top, and stands within arm's reach of a practically drooling Hinata. Her gaze drifts over his muscular frame. Of their own accord, her trembling hand begins to extend to gently touch Naruto's chest. She feels her nipples harden even more. Oh hell, Hinata. Focus. Stop being such a pervert and let's impress him, shall we? She shouts at herself. Having little success ridding her mind of the shirtless Naruto and the events of yesterday, Hinata begins to notice a flicker of chakra movement. She leans in, her nose mere inches away from where she saw the flicker. Naruto looks down at the top of Hinata's head, feeling a little awkward. He looks around to make sure no one is looking. Hinata catches the fleeting flicker once more. No way. The surprise makes Hinata stumble back. She looks directly at Naruto. Naruto. I could see movement, I think your idea may work. Naruto, standing there nodding with his arms folded, responds confidently, of course it will. Believe it. Not being able to contain her excitement, she launches herself at Naruto, her legs and arms wrapping him up in a vice-like grip. Her head buried in the nook of his shoulder. Naruto-kun, thank you. Naruto falls backwards and they both begin to realize the position they are now in. Hinata looks down into Naruto's bright blue eyes. Naruto's mind explodes, I can't take it. Using his hands he brushes Hinata's hair back behind her ears. Naruto pulls her in for a deep kiss. Their tongues intertwine as they loose themselves in the moment. Naruto's hands begin to roam over her soft behind as he feels her breasts rub up against his bare chest. Hinata moans in delight, and begins to move her hips back and forth. From behind a nearby tree Sakura peeks out, her whole body turns ashen white as she witnesses a topless Naruto kissing Hinata. Inner Sakura screams in pure terror as her little fists are raised to ward off the frightening scene. Not being able to withstand the onslaught, inner Sakura clasps her chest and falls to the ground. Oh no! Sakura says silently as she falls to the ground sobbing. Chapter 6, The Dawn of a New Day. Sakura was still crying long after Naruto and Hinata had left hand in hand. It was nearing dinner time, when Ino, Shikamaru and Kuji stumbled across the distraught member of Team Kakashi. Without thinking, Ino shouts out, "What are you doing here, forehead girl?" Sakura looks up. Her tears had made her eyes red and puffy. Her cheeks were in a similar state of disrepair. Her complexion and her obvious emotional exhaustion were clear indications that she had been like this for some time. Shikamaru turns to Kuji, who was stuffing his face with potato chips, and quietly whispers, "Quick, let's get out of here." Kuji nods in agreement since his mouth was too full of food to talk. Ino waits for her teammates to disperse and takes a seat next to Sakura. "You don't have to stay, Ino pig," Sakura sobs, meaning to add more gusto to her insult. She manages to pick herself up, though her balance was a little wobbly at first, and begins to walk away. Ino simply looks on, not wanting to force her friend to talk about what is clearly troubling her. Once inside the 5th Hokage's office, Sakura begins collating some paperwork. "I had better get back to my chores or Tsunade-sensei will kill me." Sakura tries to gather herself. Tsunade then walks into her office, her eyes focused on the latest mission report. She looks up to notice her frazzled student. Sakura's usually lovely pink hair was a mess, her red top and pink skirt were covered in dirt, her usual lovely green eyes were all red and puffy. In short, she looked absolutely dreadful. "What's the matter?" Tsunade asks while still glancing at the mission report. Sakura looks up and falls to the ground again howling, "I saw Naruto kissing Hinata Hyuga." Inner Sakura mirrors the actions of her outer self. Sakura and inner Sakura cover their eyes in an attempt to stem the flow of tears. Hoping no one hears the extraordinary loud outburst, Tsunade closes the door behind her. "Well, that's an interesting turn of events. Wait a minute, why is she upset? I thought Sakura fancied Sasuke." Tsunade thinks. "Are they married?" Tsunade asks, waiting for an answer. "No," Sakura responds. "Did he get on one knee and propose?" Tsunade asks again. "No." Sakura says again, more confidently. "Are they even dating?" Tsunade asks. "No. I don't think so." Sakura says again, her crying subsiding. "Well, what are you doing here? Now go and tell him you like him before it's too late." Tsunade says finally. Sakura stifles her sobbing and looks up at her sensei. "That will work?" Too distracted to finish reading the report, she slams it down on her desk. "It had better. I can't have you walking around like this. How are you able to do anything? Now get going." Tsunade screams angrily. Sakura smiles for the first time in hours, and gets off her knees. "You're right. I am so much prettier than that ugly Hyuga girl. There is no way Naruto would prefer her over me." Sakura says determinedly. "I didn't say she was prettier. But hey, Whatever works. Tsunade thinks to herself. Look at me, I am the perfect catch. Sakura continues talking herself up, running her hands sexily over her slender hips. Inner Sakura imagines herself in a bikini and looks at herself in a mirror, turning this way and that, damn straight. Well, I wouldn't go that far. With her green eyes ablaze and her soft pink hair billowing out, Sakura readies herself to win back Naruto's affection. Inner Sakura starts waking an oversized cartoon-like hammer against the palm of her hand. Let's go get her. Even outer Sakura was frightened by the murderous intent of her inner self. Tsunade watches her stomp out of the office, fists clenched. She wonders whether she should warn Naruto of his approaching doom. Nah. Lying on her stomach with her legs in the air, Hinata reminisces on her bed about the day's events, continually having to pinch herself to ensure she wasn't dreaming. She smiles. My first ever kiss with a boy was with Naruto-kun. Hinata can still feel his lips and the touch of his hands all over her body. She begins to blush remembering Naruto's reaction as she took her jacket off. He couldn't take his eyes off me. Hinata still couldn't believe it. No one had ever actually found her attractive. After returning her to her front door, Naruto had decided that they would spend every morning together trying to strengthen her byakugan. Once certain she could see his chakra flow, they would begin trying to hit his chakra points. Naruto looked a bit apprehensive about the last part of his plan. Hinata had simply nodded at every suggestion. The day was quickly becoming way too much for her to handle. When parting, she embarrassingly closed her eyes, leaned forward slightly and puckered her lips. Quickly realizing what a fool she must look like, she had quickly reversed the action, and went a rather crimson shade of red. Luckily Naruto had been distracted by the watching servants. Hinata laughs to herself, I am so glad he didn't see that. When Naruto had finally disappeared from sight, Hinata's blood had drained entirely from her face, and she had collapsed. The servants quickly scurried to her aid and had carried her to her bedroom. No doubt I have not heard the end of that. Hinata says to herself rather ashamedly. Hinata's dreamy state is interrupted by a soft knock at her door. What is it? Hinata asks. Dinner is ready, miss. Would you like to join your family at the table? The servant responds from the other side of the doorway. Tonight Hinata didn't want anyone to ruin this day. Not tonight, thank you. Can you please pass on my apologies to my father? Hinata hears the sound of fading footsteps hurrying back down the hallway. Hinata sighs and gets up, time to catch some sleep so I am ready for Naruto-kun tomorrow morning. After removing her night attire, she slides under the covers in nothing but her panties and pulls the sheet over her body up to her chin as she drifts off to sleep, a smile adorning her soft features. The next morning Hinata wakes an hour before her alarm was set to go off. Jumping out of bed, she scrambles to her closet. Naruto-kun will be here in 3 hours, I have to get ready. Opening the closet door she rummages through her clothes. Black jacket, back jacket, black jacket, black jacket, she skips ahead, mesh top. Mesh top, mesh top, arg, she skips ahead further, 3/4 pants, 3/4 pants, she skips ahead some more. Hinata begins to now rifle through her old clothing. Ack. Too small. Her eyes widen and she begins throwing the selected outfit onto the edge of her bed. Looking down at the apparel and back at her near-naked body, I dunno. She says shyly to nobody but herself. Inner Hinata responds, I don't know about you, but I can still fit in them. Deciding there is only one way to find out, Hinata reaches for the smaller 3/4 pants and begins to place one foot in them. Hinata then stops to think, I won't be doing any sparring with Naruto-kun today, simply observing him. Reluctantly putting the pants to one side, Hinata ventures towards the top drawer of her tall boy. Opening it she begins to rifle through its contents, looking for something she bought years ago but has never worn. Her eyes widen as she finds the things she was looking for. Holding the edges up for all to see, she gazes at a rather small G-string. Inner Hinata shouts in outright dismay, I am definitely not wearing that. Ignoring the voice in her head, Hinata throws the piece of underwear on the bed and rummages some more. Yes, found it. Inner Hinata, oh no, she covers her arms over her breasts as if they were naked, no way. Hinata now holds up a rather racy lace bra. Putting her arms through the straps, she reaches back to fasten the bra. I can't even imagine how this is going to fit. She plants her face on the bed and tries with all her might to get the clasp to reach. She begins kicking her legs with the sheer effort, as if this may. Got it. Hinata hops up and looks at herself in the mirror. The bra was clearly too small, but it wasn't uncomfortable. In fact, Hinata thought she looked pretty good. Hinata then looks at the G-string and reluctantly sheds her comfortable panties. Putting one leg and then the next, she pulls them to her hips. Thankfully she had inherited her mother's genes, for she didn't have any body hair. If that wasn't the case, wearing this piece of clothing would have been entirely inappropriate, and out of the question. Having successfully accomplished her first mission, she now begins to step into her small 3/4 pants. Again she assesses her appearance in the full-length mirror. No mushroom top, check. She turns to have a look at her behind and bends a little. It clearly doesn't leave much to the imagination, but I only plan on seeing Naruto-kun today. Next she turns to her size 6 mesh top. Inner Hinata bites her nails. I'm scared? She reaches for it like it is a time bomb, and very carefully puts it on. Surprisingly, the meshy material was very stretchy and fitted easy. The only issue being the fact that the gaps between the mesh were now a little larger. Her erotic bra was clearly visible, as would other things should she become excited. Inner Hinata turns her body this way and that, checking herself out. She nods approvingly. We're going to lose our virginity today, I can feel it in my bones. With an hour to go, Hinata waits nervously on the edge of her bed. There is no way I can let any of my family see me like this. Hinata begins to tap her fingers together. On occasion, she looks out her window to see if she can see anyone approach. Already forgetting the events that occurred yesterday in the Hyuga household, Naruto stands ready to knock on Hinata's front door. I hope I get to kiss Hinata-chan some more. Naruto giggles like a pervert, he. As his knuckles are about to hit the door, Hinata opens it quickly and blurts out, I am ready Naruto-kun, let's go. Hinata watches Naruto's eyes take a quick snapshot of her before they roll back into the back of his head and he drops to the floor with a large thud. Naruto-kun, Hinata whispers as she covers her mouth with her hand in concern. Seeing that Naruto had simply fainted, she stifles a shy laugh and blushes. Not exactly the reaction I wanted, it was better. Inner Sakura nods, yep, definitely way too sexy to be seen in public. I am outright dangerous. Naruto-kun, Hinata says a little louder, hoping he will come too. Hinata turns back to look inside her house, hoping no one had heard them. She reaches up to the doorknob and as quietly as she can, pulls it shut. Hinata then attempts to lift Naruto over his shoulder, but he was too heavy for her small frame. She then grabs each of Naruto's hands in hers and begins to drag him away from the house. Sliding along his back, Hinata can't help but gaze lovingly at the genuine smile plastered across his face. Eventually dragging Naruto behind a nearby tree, she kneels next to him and places both hands on his chest to give him a gentle shake. Naruto-kun, please wake up. Nothing. Instead of raising her voice, Hinata leans closer to Naruto's ear and repeats her plea, Naruto-kun, please wake up. Naruto suddenly sits upright, and his head collides with Hinata's. Both of them begin to rub their sore foreheads and scream in unison, ouch ouch ouch. Having eased the pain, they both look at each and blush. Laughing apologetically, Naruto turns to Hinata and says, sorry Hinata-cha, what happened? Naruto tries to remember. I was at your door when I... His eyes widen in shock realization as he looks at Hinata from head to toe and back again. Hinata sits there quietly letting Naruto have his fill. Wow Hinata-chan, you look amazing. Naruto goes even more crimson. Hinata-chan is showing much more leg today, they are so smooth, and her pants, they seem tighter, they are showing off every contour of her slender leg. Not wearing her usually heavy jacket, Naruto gulps, daring to look at her mesh top once more. It was hugging her womanly figure so much so that it didn't simply drape over her curves, hiding them, but rather accentuated them. Naruto could even see a type of bra that he had seen on the very rare occasion he was in the women's bathhouse. It was black lace, and see-through in the places he wanted to see most. Naruto leans in to get a better look, and squints. Being mere inches from her chest, some drool escaped the side of his mouth as he smiles as if this was the first time he had ever been near a pair of breasts. Naruto-kun, Hinata stammers, going crimson in embarrassment. Holding his close position, Naruto looks up into Hinata's embarrassed eyes, and snaps out of it. He scrambles backwards hurriedly and his back knocks into the nearby tree. I am so sorry Hinata-chan, Naruto turns a shade of red never before seen, I have just never seen anyone look so awesome. Naruto calms a little and quickly continues, it's like you have your own sexy jutsu. Turning to make sure no one is around, he whispers a secret to Hinata, best be careful with it, it has the opposite effect on girls, they tend to turn extremely violent. Hinata laughs, I will remember that. Naruto stands up with Hinata following suit. Well, we might as well make a start. Naruto says matter-of-factly. Hinata nods, right. Byakugan. She says in quietly, activating her bloodline limit. Naruto begins to shed his jacket and top, and stuffs them in his backpack. Hinata grins broadly and wonders if she is ever going to get used to this. Inner Hinata screams in fangirl delight, take it off. Hinata's voice getting slightly bolder, Naruto-kun, Naruto-kun. Naruto, finishing stuffing his clothes in his backpack, looks up, Hinata's palms get sweaty. I may have to stay extremely close to you to pick up your chakra circulatory system. Until my eyes get stronger, that is. Of course, Hinata-chan, I think I will like this training very much. Naruto's frank admission makes Hinata's heart sing with joy. Her confidence soars 1,000-fold and her flushed cheeks return to their normally coloring. She leans in and kisses him passionately. Her eyes close as she slides her tongue inside his mouth. She finds her hands tenderly grabbing Naruto's behind, pulling him in closer. Naruto returns the passionate embrace. Breaking for air, they both smile from ear to ear sheepishly. Lost for words, Naruto bounds off. Placing her complete trust in Naruto, Hinata follows in hot pursuit, practically spooning him as they leap through the forest. Hinata keeps her focus purely on the very faint flickering movement of Naruto's chakra. Having reached their hidden destination, Naruto clasps his hands together, making the relevant hand sign and shouts, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Before Hinata knew it, she was surrounded by 5 half-naked Narutos. Inner Hinata falters, this is too much. Hinata faints. Each of the shadow clones goes to Hinata's aid and attempts to wake her up. One of them trying to do this in a much more perverted manner. The original Naruto runs in shouting, hey you pervert, get your hands off Hinata-chan. The behaved clones notice the perverted clone's hands squeezing Hinata-chan's breasts, they stop trying to wake Hinata and begin to pulverize him. The original Naruto, seeing that Hinata is alright, turns his attention to his clones. Alright, you all have stuff to do, now get to it. The shadow clones stop brawling and get up. They each nod to the original. With 4 of them immediately dispersing, the perverted one remains, looking slightly battered and bruised. I think I need to go to the hospital. Naruto loses his temper, get out of here. Eek, the 5th Naruto turns and runs off limping. Naruto sits cross-legged in front of the beautiful Hinata, and waits for her to come to. Not long after, Hinata comes to and notices Naruto watching her. She rubs her eyes, remembering the cause of her fainting spell, sorry Naruto-kun, I was caught by surprise. Naruto dismisses her apology with the wave of his hand, no need for that. Hinata wonders whether the real one is still with her. As if reading her mind, Naruto answers, I just had to get some other stuff done in a hurry. But the good news is that you have the original and the best Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it. Deciding to hurry things along so she can spend some quality time with Naruto, she activates her byakugan, and slides herself a lot closer to Naruto. Naruto, in a meditation-like pose, decides to hold each of Hinata's hands and closes his eyes. Hinata gasps, but doesn't say a thing. She simply concentrates on trying to find Naruto's chakra flow again. Having little success, she tries different tacks. Having tried nearly everything she knows, she begins to wonder if she had imagined it all. Her confidence wanes, and her mind begins to lose focus. 5 half-naked Narutos invade her mind. She again sees the flicker. Inner Hinata gasps in realization, no way why. Chapter 7, Complications. Having spent hours in meditation trying to activate the second stage of his muscular enhancement, without any success, Naruto opens his eyes and eases his hold on Hinata's hands. So, how did it go? Naruto asks. He notices Hinata sweating profusely. A great big smile encompasses Hinata's features. This close, I believe I am beginning to be able to tell the difference between your muscular structure and your actual chakra flow. Inner Hinata snickers, who would have thought that being such a pervert would help? Excellent. Naruto nods, really impressed with Hinata's quick progress. However, inside he is a little saddened as he didn't want their time together to be so short. Sensing the slight anxiety, Hinata falls even more in love and continues, however, if I am more than a foot away, I lose it. Naruto brightens. Well, before we continue, let's see if you are on the right path. I want you to hit a chakra point. Naruto stands up. Hinata gasps, are you sure, Naruto-kun? Naruto nods, sure, I'm sure. And don't worry, I think I should be okay. Stepping closer to Naruto-kun, her hardened nipples grazing his bare chest, Hinata rather uncomfortably arcs her neck to look down. She begins to draw chakra to her hands, and locates an easy chakra point which shouldn't hurt too much. And go for one of the harder chakra points, Naruto adds. But the harder ones hurt more, Naruto-kun. Hinata says, concerned. Naruto holds his ground. Hinata begs, perhaps we should wait until a medical ninja is available to supervise. Naruto glares, getting a little impatient. Oh, alright. Hinata folds. Drawing more chakra, she finds a much more difficult chakra point, one surrounding his heart. It was typically very small, and very hard to hit as it was surrounded by layers and layers of protective muscle. In battle it could hardly ever be hit, but with Naruto leaving himself completely open, it would be the perfect test. Hinata then draws her elbow back and with all her strength, drives her palm against Naruto's chest. Thinking he would be alright, Naruto is caught by surprise as he collapses to his knees coughing. Naruto-kun. Hinata shouts in a very worried voice, and goes to her knees also to hold him up by his shoulders. I'm guessing it worked. Naruto says, bemused. Hinata checks, and indeed his chakra system had been stopped but only momentarily. His chakra-enhanced muscles, still glowing in that brilliant blue hue, had absorbed most of the impact. It worked, Naruto-kun, I'm sorry I hurt you. Naruto looks up, and wobbles to his feet. I asked for it. And it proves you are on the right track. So it was worth it. Naruto still holds his chest, a small amount of blood escaping from one side of his mouth. Hinata steps in and lovingly dabs the blood away. Naruto feels all warm and fuzzy on the inside. The pain was definitely well worth the attention. Wandering down the streets of Konoha carrying some grocery bags, the Naruto clone makes his way back to his apartment. In some nearby bushes, Sakura waits in ambush. Seeing Naruto approach, she begins to put her plan into action. Bumping into Sakura, Naruto exclaims, Sakura-chan. Where did you come from? He was genuinely happy to see her as always, but looks around slightly puzzled. Oh, Naruto-kun, fancy seeing you here. Sakura responds rather rehearsed. Ignoring the odd statement, Naruto cheerfully continues, you will be pleased to know that I am at this very minute trying to work out a way to activate that second stage thing you were seeking yesterday. Sakura frowns. He is not working on anything of the sort. He dares lie to my face. She calms her temper, well at least he is not with that Hinata pig. The two of them walk up to Naruto's apartment to drop off his groceries. After packing everything away, Naruto begins to notice Sakura's attire. She was wearing her sexy knee-high boots, and her tight black bike shorts. Over her bike pants she was wearing a light pink short skirt which had slits up either side to give her greater maneuverability when fighting. The combination showed off plenty of her upper leg. And by God, were her legs nice. For many a year he had dreamed of being allowed to touch them. Of being Sakura's boyfriend. During his most recent encounter with Sasuke, Naruto had seen Sakura shed a tear over their lost friend. At first he denied it, but the more and more he thought about it, the more it made sense. Sakura still loved Sasuke. It had almost torn his heart in two. But finally he was beginning to realize that he would never be nothing more than a friend. Continuing his upward observation of Sakura, she was wearing a darker pink top and her black elbow-length gloves. Her leaf headband was being used to keep her short, pink hair tied back. Naruto gazes into her eyes. He had always been amazed at their color, such a beautiful shade of green. And they had such a fierceness to them when she was mad. Naruto watches her turn and make her way to his bed. He stands mesmerized as Sakura's hips move from side to side, her short skirt billowing with her graceful movements. Inner Sakura shouts instructions, that's right, move those hips, left, right, left, right. Wiping the evil smile from her face, Sakura turns back to face Naruto and sits on his bed. Legs slightly spread to offer him a nicer view. So what are you up to today? Sakura asks. Tearing his gaze away from between Sakura's legs, Naruto looks at the movement in his pants, and shakes his head to clear his thoughts. Stop it. Not now. Naruto decides it best not to make eye contact. Well, I should be visiting Kakashi-sensei in hospital right about now. I should also be in a meeting with Tsunade. The other me should be eating lunch at the ramen shop. Naruto checks his closet. Good, it seems I have also finished my cleaning, so that simply leaves the original me training with Hinata-chan. Sakura jumps up and screams in fury, what? You're a shadow clone? Naruto timidly steps back looking at the stains on his roof. Why is she so mad? He looks for an escape route. Didn't didn't you know? Sakura's blood boils, and through clenched teeth she asks, with Hinata again, hey? What are you two doing? Naruto sits next to Sakura and breathes a sigh of relief thinking the thread over, his eyes still gazing at everything but her. Funny story that. It seems the byakugan can't see my chakra circulatory system due to the muscle thing. You should have seen her Hyuga clan's reaction. They all couldn't see a thing. Naruto laughs thinking Sakura would laugh with him. But he is met with utter silence. He muffles his merriment and continues. Ahem, during yesterday's training, Hinata-chan was able to see something after I took my top off. So we are going to see how far we can take it. It also gives me a good chance to see if I can figure out how to activate the second stage. Naruto then stops abruptly thinking it best to keep the remainder of the events to himself. He doesn't want to give her any reason to hit him again. Although it would be painless, Naruto wanted to spend as much time with Sakura as possible. Sakura jealously asks, whose idea was it to take your shirt off? Naruto looks on puzzled. There was much more interesting things in that story than that. Thinking nothing bad could come of it, Naruto answers innocently, well, I asked if it would help, and Hinata-chan said it would. So off it came. Naruto hears a deep growling sound emanate from Sakura's throat. Does she have a demon inside of her too? He ponders the thought. It would explain a lot. Sakura was well versed on how the byakugan worked. There is absolutely no reason whatsoever why taking off his shirt would have aided her birthright ability. Naruto is a stupid blind moron, and that Hinata Hyuga, she is more devious than I thought. Inner Sakura sulks. I wish I could see Naruto with his top off. I think I may ask Hinata-chan out on a date or something. What do you think, Sakura-chan? Naruto asks seeking advice from one of his closest female friends. A look of utter madness sets upon Sakura's face. Naruto steps away from her thinking she's about to explode. Are you alright, Sakura-chan? He asks, more concerned about his well-being than hers at the moment. Sakura stands and with a quick flick of her wrist, she unsheathes her kunai and throws them all at the Naruto clone. With the first one hitting home, the clone disperses in a cloud of smoke. The remaining kunai lodge in the front door. If the clone had remained, they would have pierced his eyes and his groin. Sakura paces back and forth trying to think of how she should proceed. After a number of weeks training with Naruto, with her byakugan activated, Hinata was now able to clearly see Naruto's chakra circulatory system from almost any range. With the intensity of her training, she could now use her bloodline limit almost all day and could see so much further than before. And tuning into finer details was a walk in the park. She could count the number of freckles on an ant, miles away. It was immensely disconcerting at first having to think of Naruto-kun in a sexual context, but it was now second nature for her. She blushes momentarily and laughs shyly. But that wasn't the best part of her newfound ability. When activated, she could find Naruto's chakra anywhere, no matter where he was, no matter what time of day. It wasn't that she could clearly make him out, she could just sense his whereabouts. Walking through the front door of her house, she clumsily bumps into Neji. I have been looking for you, Neji says rather angrily. Hinata looks on pondering what Neji is up to. We haven't trained for ages, let us go, cousin. Before Hinata has a chance to respond, Neji drags her to the training ground to where her father and sister, Hanabi, await. Hinata tries to fight but was caught too off balance to effectively counter. Begin. Lord Hyashi shouts quickly, noticing Hinata's reluctance. Hinata hears her father whisper to her little sister, now watch Neji carefully. You will learn a lot from him. Angrily Hinata shouts, Byakugan. She hadn't told anyone of her startling development, but she was now enraged and ready to show everyone what Naruto had given her. The number of veins carrying chakra to Hinata's eyes had increased dramatically to cater for the immense increase in the flow of chakra. Her veins throbbed with the enormity of her newfound power. She takes up the gentle fist-style stance. The Byakugan was not only the only thing that had improved. In order to hit Naruto's chakra points effectively, she had to increase her strength to penetrate the incredible protective barrier of his muscular anatomy. But not only that, Naruto made her believe in herself. He made her feel confident in her abilities, and her appearance. He never once looked down at her as though she was a failure. In fact, he thought she was an incredible ninja. And he thought she was beautiful. Nothing else in the world mattered to her more. Neji notices immediately Hinata's increased confidence. But he's not overly concerned by that. Her eyes, however, were another matter. Lord Hyashi had failed to notice as Hinata's back was to him. Neji activates his bloodline limit. What the? He stumbles back, taken completely by surprise. Her chakra was raging like a storm in a teacup. How is it Hinata has become so strong? Hinata charges in. Her strikes executed perfectly. Neji is kept busy trying to dodge them, damn. She is striking with pinpoint accuracy, and the sheer power behind each thrust, unbelievable. If any of those hit, she could destroy my chakra points permanently. In fear Neji shouts, "Stop the fight." But Hinata doesn't hear him through her fury. Neji in a panic quickly shouts, 8 trigrams empty palm and goes into a defensive spin trying to block Hinata's advance. Lord Hyashi stands up bewildered. Neji had never used this technique with his weak daughter before. With her byakugan Hinata begins to navigate the surface of the shield looking for weaknesses. Glaring, she finds numerous flaws and smiles. This will require finesse rather than strength. Hinata, placing her feet together, begins to wave her arms around releasing immensely accurate tendrils of chakra, striking the weaknesses in Neji's so-called absolute defense. Inside the field, Neji spins and notices the penetrating tendrils of chakra. She has found a way in? It can't be. He attempts to spin faster to strengthen his defense, but still Hinata manages to break through. Eventually one hits his shoulder and he screams in agony. The shield collapses as he begins to fall. Hinata, without hesitation, runs at him and with a single strike to his chest, sends him flying back. Neji's spine slams against a wooden pillar at the opposite end of the field, breaking it in half with the sheer force of his momentum. Arg! Neji grunts. He attempts to stand but he is paralyzed. Blood gushes out of his mouth. The beat of his heart falters as it tries to keep pumping blood through his body. It struggles, his heart stops. Hinata runs up to Neji unapologetically, he asked for it. Kneeling next to him she clasps her hands together and thumps his chest repeatedly to try and get his heart started again. I think I went a bit far. Lord Hyashi, with Hanabi runs up to his fallen nephew. Hinata successfully manages to start his heart, and begins to massage his chakra points, attempting to quicken his recovery by reinvigorating his chakra circulatory system. With his strength returning, Neji opens his eyes and looks up at Hinata with sheer amazement. His clothing and face splattered with his own blood. Lord Hyashi turns on Hinata and finally sees what was at first hidden from his view, Hinata's eyes. Without saying a word to his daughter, he activates his byakugan. His eyes glaze over in startled wonderment. What have you done? Hinata stands defiantly, I have been training with Naruto-kun. But what use is that? We can't see his chakra circulatory system. I can. Hinata says with confidence, and training with him has resulted in some rather unexpected benefits, don't you think, father? Hundreds of thoughts immediately scramble Hyashi's mind as he tries to make sense of what has occurred before him this very day. Hanabi tugs at her father's shirt, does this mean Hinata is now the favorite daddy, and I'm the failure? She asks concerned. Hyashi looks down at his youngest daughter and back to Hinata. Her eyes glisten with tears at her younger sister's innocent remark. What a terrible father I am. He falls to his knees in despair thinking of all the things he has ever said and thought about his eldest child. Early the following day, Hinata packs her things ready to meet up with Naruto. He hadn't officially asked her out yet due to the focus on her training, but she felt that today was the day. Quickly exiting the front door, she trips over. Eek! Hinata screams and puts her hands out to brace her fall. Turning angrily to find the source of her unflattering fall, she finds Neji fast asleep on the doorstep. He begins to slowly awaken. I guess a kick in the back has that effect, Hinata postulates. Hinata, I was hoping to catch you before you left. You have been leaving so early of late. Neji yawns. Shouldn't you still be in bed recovering? Hinata asks. Ignoring her insincere concern, Neji continues, I was hoping to join you and Naruto in training today. Inner Hinata yells at the top of her voice, hoping Neji will hear, why of course you do. And no, you can't come. Slightly curious as to whether someone else of the Hyuga clan may be able to emulate her results, and not really having the right to dismiss her cousin's request, she nods reluctantly. Naruto paces back and forth in genuine concern, Hinata-chan is never late. He had a lot of things on his mind. After the events in his apartment a few weeks ago, Sakura had ignored him for a time. It seems asking dating advice was strictly forbidden. He didn't know that, but he wouldn't do it again. Naruto had sought her out the following day to apologize but had stumbled across Sakura arguing with the 5th Hokage about her selection in an A-ranked mission. It seems a medical ninja was required. From the screams emanating from behind closed doors, it seems Sakura was refusing to go. Naruto would have nearly given his left foot to go on an A-ranked mission. Panicking at the sound of a nearby noise, and the fear of being caught eavesdropping on the 5th Hokage, Naruto had quickly dispersed and did not get to hear the outcome of the argument. From the strange note Sakura had left in his apartment, it seems Sakura wasn't the victor, and what a strange note. He pulls it from his pocket to read it again. Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. 30. Sakura. What's that supposed to mean? I do stupid things all the time, and what's with these crosses? Sighing in frustration, he puts the letter back in his pocket. That's it. Naruto turns in the direction of the Hyuga household. Before he makes his way, Naruto notices two people approaching. Squinting, he notices Hinata at the rear biting her nails and looking rather squirmish. At the front was Neji. Upon reaching him, Hinata stands next to Naruto. Hey Neji. It's good to see you, but what are you doing here? Naruto smiles mischievously and scratches his spiky blonde hair in confusion. Neji steps forward. My apologies Naruto for interrupting your training session with Hinata. But we had a sparring session the other day and well. Too embarrassed to continue, Neji cuts his explanation short. She beat me. I was hoping you could do a similar thing for me? Neji asks, bowing very formally. Naruto looks proudly at Hinata, and she smiles back in utter devotion. Naruto thinks, well, I guess we could give it a try. Thank you Naruto. Hearing a rustling in the nearby trees, all three turn to look. Rock Lee emerges from the forest in his unchanging green bodysuit. I've been looking for you Neji-san? You are missing training with Tenten and Gai-sensei. Neji responds, I will be training with Naruto for a few days. Hinata took 2 weeks, it should only take me a couple of days. Neji thinks to himself. Naruto rolls his eyes at Hinata at Neji's boastfulness, and she giggles. Neji turns his attention back to Naruto. So how do we do this? Although outwardly calm, Neji was bursting at the seams to see the same kind of improvement in himself. He would be unstoppable. The greatest Hyuga that ever lived. Well, Hinata could only see my chakra circulatory system up close. Once accustomed, we would extend the distance. At various points in time, I allowed Hinata to hit me with her gentle fist-style technique to ensure it worked. Naruto explains, skipping the fun parts where he and Hinata had kissed. Naruto sits cross-legged and waits for Neji to follow suit. Finally getting the hint, Neji sits down and activates his byakugan. Rock Lee, accepting the strange turn of events without explanation, sits down alongside Neji. Neji begins staring at Naruto, leaning in closer. He feels a little awkward and turns a little red. He can't see anything, Naruto is simply all blue. There was no flickering as Hinata had earlier described. He tries harder, if Hinata can do it so can I. Seeing that Neji is struggling, Naruto reluctantly begins to take his shirt off. Neji responds, whoa, hold on there a second, what are you doing? Rock Lee looks from Neji to Naruto and back again, trying to understand what is going on. Naruto answers defensively, well Hinata said it may help? Neji flicks his head in the direction of Hinata, and glares at her with a look of disgust. Unable to offer a reasonable excuse, she turns a deep shade of red and avoids eye contact. Inner Hinata comes to her defense, I am not sorry. Cutting her some slack, Neji responds, that won't be necessary Naruto. After many hours of sitting there examining Naruto's chakra, Hinata finally gets a little jealous, alright Neji, if you haven't even seen anything by now? You never will. Naruto thanks Hinata silently, he was beginning to feel very awkward having Rock Lee and Neji stare at him for such a long period of time. And they had better things to do. Rock Lee finally breaks the silence, I shall win this staring contest. Neji sighs inwardly and turns his attention to Naruto, can you please take your shirt off?
Inner Hinata grabs her belly and billows out with laughter bwah ha 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 ha.
Hinata turns crimson and stifles her own little laugh. Naruto looks to her seeking direction. His sheer bewilderment just makes Hinata laugh all the more. Aw, he's so cute. Neji looks down ashamedly. Rock Lee turns to his friend, and asks in all seriousness, do you want me to take my shirt off too? That was the final straw, Hinata begins giggling uncontrollably, mimicking her inner self. Neji is so embarrassed he covers his face in shame. But through it, he gulps and begs, please Naruto. Alright, but geez, don't tell anyone. Naruto reluctantly sheds his top. Not passing up this chance to see Naruto topless, Hinata stares and lets some rather perverted thoughts wash over her. Inner Hinata dog whistles and drools a little. After a few minutes of uncomfortable silence and staring, Neji throws his arms up in the air. I give up. I can't do it. I can't see anything. Nada, zip. Rock Lee still stares at Naruto's bare chest, not giving up his own weird self-motivated challenge. Naruto quickly takes this chance to put his top back on. Rock Lee finally blinks and stands next to Neji, pumping his fist in excitement and hooting like a girl. All right. I win the staring contest. Hinata breathes a huge sigh of relief. I am special.